What was your biggest takeaway from Baldy? Because it seemed like to me not that he's deflecting, he's just defending. Just
Kyle,
just
a little
in
surprised.
General.
Little surprised.
Why is that?
Because analytics from old football heads are like, analytics, really? The game was won on the field. I was a little surprised that he agreed with the notion that, hey, you get the third possession in overtime. I'm not thinking about that.
No, I was going more on the feel of my defense was gassed.
Right, yeah, no, which is my original premise, too.
Yes.
Was like, get the ball. But,
and I'll stick to that.
But I'm going to pivot off of that, saying that maybe you should have kicked it off so you know what you need on the second possession. Kansas City kicks a field goal. Okay, if I get a touchdown, I win the game. Okay, but we kick a field goal, we tie. But it changes everything. I don't know. I was a little surprised by Baldy with that one. It didn't just, like, Spags just being in Shanahan's pocket. Like, Spags is that good as a defensive coordinator. We're going to think of, like, whatever we thought of Dick LeBeau, we're now thinking about that with Spags.
I mean, I might think higher of him.
I do think higher of him than Dick LeBeau. Because Dick LeBeau, obviously the architect of the 3-4 defense, the zone blitzing and all that stuff. What Spags has done to the Patriots in 2007 when they were 18-0, doing it again against the Patriots, and then doing what he's done against the Niners in 2 straight Super Bowls, 54 and 58, and really stuffing them in money time when it was time to make a play, time to get a first down. We know what happened to Jimmy Garoppolo in the fourth quarter, and we know what happened to Brock Purdy in this offense in the fourth quarter in overtime against Spags. Shanahan needs some answers. For some reason, these coordinators like Spags and Schwartz and Raheem Morris with the Rams, they get the best of Kyle Shanahan.
So here's what I was thinking, long and hard. And you're going to say, Joe, it's extremely unlikely. And you're correct. So I admit this is fantasy land. I'm admitting this out loud. I think Wilkes was really good in this game.
Yep.
There were areas where I think there were certain situations we can nitpick at, but I think in general, this was one of his best games of the year, given the opponent.
Right.
That being said, and I've said it all year, I would bring in Bill Belichick.
As a defensive coordinator,
I would pay him whatever it costs. The 49ers print money.
Well,
they know Jed York wants to win, right? And I know he does. And he's proven that. And he's talked about all the money he spent on players. If Belichick, and I don't think he would ever take a defensive coordinator position at this point in his career, but if there is ever a guy to go throw $20 million at, because it doesn't go against your cap.
Right.
It has nothing to do with your cap. If you want to go over the top and pay for someone, you bring in Belichick, and then it takes a little something off of Kyle's plate, and now he could just focus on the actual quarterback and the offense. When I saw Andy Reid sitting down next to Mahomes as they were struggling, not moving the ball and not sustaining drives, I saw him sitting on the bench next to Mahomes during the middle of the game. Kyle couldn't do that at all year because he was worried about what was going on the defense. You're not doing that when you have Belichick. Does Kyle going to have...
Well, this is Kyle's defense, though.
Yeah,
we know that. And he damn near broke a Microsoft Surface in overtime about some defensive personnel or defensive play that they had. So
yeah, but
he's
when you
involved.
Bring in someone that you respect to that level, like for example, and I'm using you as an example. When I talk about basketball, it doesn't hit the same way. Chris Mullin talking to you about basketball, which is totally like I'm talking about one of the greats who's ever played the game.
What about Mike Vrabel?
To me, why would I go get Vrabel when Vrabel's learning the Belichick concepts?
Vrabel been a little bit better.
He's got a big ego too, though.
He does.
And
they both have that, but maybe he's cheaper. But
you're asking me for fantasy land.
But yeah. Okay, all right. So if it's Belichick, listen.
If it costs me to go get him,
his defense is really good. That means a scheme change.
Absolutely.
And I'm okay with that because one of the big takeaways I got from Baldy was he said Steve Wilkes and their blitzes, it's not creative. You know they're coming.
Yes.
And one thing about Kansas City,
I'm with you.
McDuffie on that third down, he's lined up. Like, is he coming? Who's coming? They disguise their blitzes very well. We know Bill Belichick. He disguises blitzes very well. But so does Mike Vrabel. But I think Steve Wilkes is going to move on. Mm-hmm. I think the Niners are going to move on from Steve Wilkes. There's just too much smoke there. And if I'm Steve Wilkes, why would I want to be here? I'm getting scapegoated for everything. That defense is good enough to win in the Super Bowl. Very good.
I would agree.
And for the most part this season,
they were all right.
The defense was good.
Yeah, they were all right.
The defense, especially when it comes to the name of this game is not to allow a team to score, right?
And their points per game was good.
Top 5.
Yeah, it was good.
Top 5. So that's what I'm banking on. Now, run game, I get it, some run, but let's agree the personnel wasn't all that either.
Well, no, that kind of...
This was like the weakest personnel this defense has had in the last 5 years.
I would agree with that.
D'Amico and Robert Saleh had way better personnel than Steve Wilks.
Losing Ibukam, losing Charles Omenihu, losing Al Shair. All those guys would have made a play.
Jimmy Ward?
Huge loss. When you look at their safety play,
right?
Yeah. So like I look at someone like Belichick and like, what's the flaw for Belichick? Well, he doesn't really know offense that well. And drafting players. Well, that's not what he'd be asked to do here. Now, look, Joe, this is fantasy land. It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
So then the question is, then the question is, does Kyle Shanahan want a scheme change? Are you moving from a 4-3 to a 3-4?
So this is what I would.
Shanahan doesn't believe in the 3-4. He wants this wide 9, 4-3
but
scheme.
Belichick says himself that he doesn't have a 3-4 or 4-3.
No, he goes this hybrid.
Week to week.
He's a hybrid.
Which is kind of what the Niner offense is. I'm just saying this, B. You're either getting better and evolving, or you're complacent and you're getting worse. That's what every business in America says. And I look at the 49ers, it's like, you know what? Now's the you're going to miss Greenlaw for a whole year. You've got a lot of guys like Eric Armstead. Like, you can go in either direction with Eric Armstead. You know, I think Nick Bosa is going to be great in any scheme. He's that good. Yep. You've got him locked up. I'd like to refreshen things on the defensive side of the ball.
Very interesting.
It's a dream scenario. No one will be in on it.
Some breaking news here. Some big news. Mark Gallegos, my boy, Oakland A's beat writer for MLB.com. He's been doing it for a long time. Just tweeted that NBC Sports California has named Ginny Kavnar the primary play-by-play announcer for the Oakland A's. She becomes the first female primary play-by-play voice in Major League Baseball history.
Good for her.
So the A's finally get some good PR. Ginny Kavnar, congratulations, man. That is awesome. Becoming this is historic. First female primary play-by-play voice in Major League Baseball history. Wow. So A's doing something right finally. That's a hell of a hire. They make some history there. So back to our Super Bowl talk here. In terms of just refreshing the defense and doing some different things, I'm okay with a scheme change. I'm okay with some exotic blitzes. I need more pressure on the quarterback, and I also need more speed and athleticism on defense. So I think one is a personnel issue.
No, I would agree there.
Gibson is free safety. He's got to go.
You need to upgrade your secondary.
Lenore and Ward are solid.
I agree.
But the nickelback spot, the fact that you had to play Logan Ryan, who you just signed off the street late in the season, that's a whiff on Avery Thomas. So they move off of Avery Thomas and move off of Isaiah Oliver and get some big, physical, speedy corners like Kansas City. That is the model. Can I get L'Jarius Sneed?
McDuffie is a hybrid. He's a stud.
L'Jarius Sneed is a free agent.
He's awesome. I would love to get him.
Ward, L'Jarius Sneed, and then Diamador Lenore in the slot.
But they don't have a lot of money. This goes back to the money aspect.
Well, you may have to make some trades. You may have to make, and we'll get there. Today is not the day. But there's some guys that I think, you know what, you want to restructure your deal. If not, I may have to move off you.
Look, seeing Kyle Shanahan slam that iPad, the Surface, whatever it's called, in overtime, I was like, he needs to get someone over there to take pressure off him. He needs to be able to sit down.
Know what, though?
He needs to be able to sit down and talk to Brock in the middle of a game like that. Like, he can't be
But he's never
over.
done that.
Well, that's
he's never done that. That's Brian Greasy. Shanahan's never done that. But also, you know, Shanahan, I get it. He's a head coach. He's frustrated. He wants to throw the Microsoft Surface. Fine. You want to get mad about the defense in overtime? Fine. The defense played well enough to win that football game.
Agreed.
Kyle, this is on you and your offense. You got schooled by Spags. Steve Wilks held up his own end of the bargain against Andy Reid.
His players made plays. His players made plays.
His players made plays. Look at the first 9 drives for Kansas City. Punt, fumble, punt, field goal, interception, punt, field goal, punt. That was going late into the third quarter.
I know, but
they scored 13 going into the fourth quarter.
You could dial up the great play, and if you get blown up at the line or guys are, glued on you at your hip in the secondary, like I give Kansas City players more credit than anyone has given them credit. I watching it back, I'm like, bro, those guys, their defense was really good. I mean, even under it, I knew they were good going in. I was impressed. I came away walking away saying that's one of the better defenses I think I've seen in a long time.
It's very good defense.
And maybe
very
it's a one-game sample, but I'm looking at the body of work.
It was a very sound defense.
But Miami, Buffalo.
But what we're talking about here, we're going to just scapegoat Wilks?
No, I'm not scapegoating. I'm not scapegoating.
I can pinpoint every loss this season and say, yeah, that's not on Steve Wilks. Every loss.
I'm not pinpointing.
I'm not trying to play the blame game.
No, I'm not
but
either.
he got a lot of heat this year because he was a new guy on the block? We could all agree personnel wasn't the same. It wasn't. All right, opposite edge, Drake Jackson disappearing after the Pittsburgh game. You spent the second-round pick on him.
He's done nothing.
Okay? Isaiah Oliver, the free agent you bring in. Not good.
But Wilkes hammered the table for that guy.
He did hammer the table for him, and it didn't work out.
And it was
because Wilkes, what did he say? This ain't my scheme.
Well, and you lost your young safety who was an all-pro or whatever, Pro Bowler the year before.
There you go. So,
and then, but losing Greenlaw. So to me, like when you lose Greenlaw for the entire, he's going to be out the year. Like it's just you have to assume.
And the defense still held up without Greenlaw for the most part.
No, I know, but you need to revamp.
No doubt, you may need to revamp.
And I think this is a great opportunity for them to pivot.
So
defense is not why they lost.
So
I'm just using it as an excuse to reset this team.
If you pivot though, and you move off the wide 9 into 4-3, not only are you pivoting off of Steve Wilkes, you're pivoting off of Chris Kosaric, who's considered to be the best D-line coach in all of football.
Okay.
Well, so you're moving off of Steve Wilkes, and you're moving off of Chris Kosaric, and it's early February, so who's really out there? Who's out there other than Belichick and Vrabel? And would they be willing to do that?
I'm just saying, dream scenarios.
We're going to play this situation out. I'm going to ask questions.
I would say to you this, like, did these D-line, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, anyone who played opposite Nick Bosa, did they have great years?
No.
Like, is that on the position coach or is that on the players?
No, it's both.
So, like, I mean, position coaches aren't going to dictate whether I'm, maintaining or getting rid of a particular scheme.
To me, we could talk about scheme and the defense. I look at this Super Bowl. I'm thoroughly impressed with what the defense did on Sunday. They did what they had to do. Now, of course, the late fourth quarter, you give up a couple fill. They bit, but they didn't break. Think about Kansas City in red zone. Till the last touchdown in the overtime, and we knew that defense was torched. It was done at that point. We all knew once Mahomes got that ball back, this game is basically over. But going into overtime, the red zone efficiency for Kansas City was not there. They bit, but they didn't break. So when I hear Steve Wilkes, sure, you want to move off of Steve Wilkes, fine. You guys have been blaming Steve Wilkes all season anyway. If I'm Steve Wilkes, I want to get the hell out of here. The hell. Why am I going to be here? I'm not even running my defense. I'm not running my scheme. Everybody blames me for everything. Fine, whatever. Get me the hell out of here. If I'm Steve Wilkes, get me the hell out of here. Number one. Number two, the lack of accountability coming from the offensive end. This is not the offense. This year, we deemed it as the offense needs to carry the defense and score that 30. And they didn't show up. But they got out-coached on that side of the football. So I'm tired of hearing about Steve Wilkes being blamed and we need to scheme change this and that. You allow 19 points to Cleveland. You allow 6 points in the second half to Minnesota. It's a 17-10 game against Cincinnati in the fourth quarter. Early in the game, the quarterback threw 2 straight interceptions. So we're going to continue to blame Steve Wilkes and everything and talk about a scheme change.
No, it's
fine, whatever.
But that's where all the money
I'm not exonerating Kyle. That's what we're doing here.
No, I'm not doing that.
This is all Kyle Shanahan, man.
45% of your salary cap is on the D-line alone, right? And like, I just look at it as, did you bang your buck for that? No. If 45% of my team allocation is in 3, 4, 5 guys, then no, we didn't squeeze the lemon.
So is that on Wilkes, the defensive line, or is that on Chris Kosaric?
That's on personnel decisions.
Shanahan?
That's on personnel decisions in terms of free agency valuations. That's on players, getting older.
Right.
It's a combination of things.
You know what it is, too? I'm watching the game back. We're getting to the lines. I know the lines are packed up. We're going to get to everybody here.
I
hear you. No, it's a great conversation.
Because Kyle's not going anywhere. Kyle's not going anywhere.
No, he's not going anywhere. But here's my problem with Kyle. And I'm thinking about this watching the game, and somebody on YouTube just brought this up, and he jogged my memory because I wanted to bring this to the table. Who was it? He said, Kyle can't beat cover 0 and cover 1. That's where I thought about Cleveland. That's Beard on YouTube. I thought about Cleveland and Rams. I said, boy, we can't beat man defense. The vertical passing game is lacking in this offense for whatever reason. And Kansas City basically said, we're playing man defense. We don't respect Ayuk and Debo enough. We're going to go man on man, and we're going to heat up your quarterback. Shanahan's a brilliant offensive mind. You imagine Mike Holmgren not being able to beat cover 0 and cover 1 all day long? You imagine Andy Reid? Andy Reid he'd salivate over cover 0 and cover 1. Oh, my God, he would cook that up in the biggest games that Kyle Shanahan has had, whether it's Super Bowl 54, whether it's the 2021 NFC Championship game, whether it's the Cleveland Browns earlier this season. For some reason, the 49ers offense struggle against man coverage, sticky man defense. We can't beat cover 1, cover 0. I got the best offensive mind in football?
Well, I mean, they have strengths and weaknesses, and their strength is the run game and the play action game. Everything's predicated off the run, and that's their whole thing. So I would say to you, Mike Holmgren at times left a lot to be desired in the run game in big games. So like everyone has strengths and weaknesses, right? Like Andy, for a long time, hey, he didn't run the ball enough. He's pass happy. So I
bet you we go man up on Mahomes, you're getting killed, right? I mean, you're going up against Andy Reid, against man deep, whether it's Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes, AJ Feely, Coy Dittmer, Ty Dittmer, it don't matter. They're going to beat man defenses. They're going to have the vertical passing game.
They slaughtered zone this year, just in the rhythm passing game. I do believe they need another receiver. They need somebody who can win over the top. But a byproduct of the way Kyle plays football, B, I've said this to you, the drop back passing game is
not good.
That's just not what they're going to do.
Well, you need to improve that.
Well,
in order to win Super Bowls, vertical passing game, you need to have a threat deep down the field. Where's Danny Gray at? Where's these speedsters at that you can?
I've given up on Danny Gray 3 years ago.
But no, seriously. You draft these guys to take the top off the defense. Dante Pettis, second round. Danny Gray, Jalen Hurd, you keep them. Who else did we have? Trent Sherfield's here for a second.
There.
Ray McLeod. I mean, you name it. Who else was?
You had Benjamin a couple years ago.
Richie James Jr. was on his football team. Like, I need some speed. I need somebody to take the top off the defense. But the vertical passing game, until that improves, you're not going to win a lot of these big games.
But when you look at like what they have, Debo's not a beat man wide receiver.
Well, then that's a problem. You need to go get some guys who knows how to beat man defense.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of money wrapped up in those two.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Debo brings a lot to the table. That's just not a strength for him.
Well, you need to go get some man beaters because, again, 2021 NFC Championship game, Super Bowl 54. Hell, even the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game a season ago. Obviously, the Super Bowl yesterday. The Cleveland Browns game. Those big games are popping up in my head, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, something about man defense and cover 0, cover 1, Kyle just struggles with. Maybe he goes into a shell and he gets a little conservative and he's thinking about not turning the ball over. He's thinking about not making a mistake. Well, but for some reason, they can't beat these coverages. And Spags knew that, and he lit them up and heated up Purdy in the second half over and over and disrupted everything.
Look, I mean, they got beat by a better team that had better personnel with a better scheme that out-hit them and outplayed them on a given day. They were really good this year. It's not a strength of their team.
Was Kansas City really good?
What, this year?
This year.
I mean, I think that they played their best football when it mattered the most.
Yeah, exactly, because around Christmas, nobody thought Kansas City was going to the Super Bowl.
No, and they're probably going to get better, Bonta, which is the hard part to. But they also have this unicorn at quarterback that makes things look different. You know what I mean? Like, he distorts everything. Everything through the lens of Mahomes. He makes everyone better. Like, Valdez-Scantling on 28 other teams is a nobody.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to rip him. I really am not. He's fine. But like, we saw him with Green Bay. He had Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers didn't like him. Wow. You know, like Rashee Rice is a nice player. I don't know what he'll end up becoming, but I'm not sure if he's a one on a lot of teams.
But you know what? You play opposite of Kelsey, you'll get a lot of one-on-one coverage.
Kelsey's a clear one. Like, he's an all-time one.
We need a clear one.
Yeah.
That's every team, I think.
But I thought that's what Ayuk was.
You know, I'm looking at some of these comments here. They're so spot on with this stuff.
What are the comments
It's
saying?
just like, we can't beat cover 0, can't beat cover 1. There was another one from Mr. Patel, and I wanted to read that one. Mr. Patel, I lost it here. But he was just talking about the Niners and these big games and not beating man coverage or whatnot. Oh, that's what it was. Kyle Shanahan at times coaches not to lose. He's not aggressive. He's a little conservative. Well, you're so worried about what the defense is doing. How about you just dictate the tempo yourself? Do what you do. Be aggressive. Like, the great offense is like, you know what? We're coming at you. We don't care what you do.
Well, they went up tempo one time early in the game, and they were trying. NBC or CBS was trying to do a graphic, and I think that was the play where Ayuk did the double move, which was open, but like
never went back out to it.
They never went back to it because honestly, B, there was a lot of first down stuffs.
Yeah.
Whether it's the run game got stuffed, there was an incomplete pass, there was disruption. So it's hard to get a rhythm in no huddle when the ball's hitting the ground or when you're getting stuffed in the run game.
Yeah, let's go back out to the lines here, man.
I just feel like when you lose the way that they did, the flaws get accentuated, and you're not going to be flawless. The way that the salary cap is and the way that the league is, you're going to have some strengths, you're going to have some weaknesses. If that's one of their weaknesses, they need to improve on it. But like,
that's another big game, though, Shasky.
I know.
Super Bowl 54, fourth quarter. What did Kansas City do? We're going to heat up the quarterback. We're going to play man defense outside. We dare you to throw outside the numbers. failed. All right, 2021 NFC Championship game, LA Rams, SoFi Stadium. We're going to stack the box with 10, play man defense, and dare you to beat his team, dare you to beat us with a throw. Failed. All right, Cleveland Browns, Jim Schwartz. We don't respect you. We're going to play sticky man coverage and snuff you all day in a run game. Niners, what did they do? They failed. Now, a lot of people will blame Jake Moody. But let's be real. You had 8 straight possessions when you went 3 and out. You had 3 plays with 3 minutes left in the game, and you ran 16 seconds off the clock. Let's stop with that.
But here's what I hear everything you're saying. But like the other part of me is like, I just say, that's a coin flip game, man. You lost to one of the greatest players of all time. Like, yes, there's about a dozen plays on both sides of the field where if it goes the other way, either team is winning. But, like, that's how close the margins are.
Think about it, though. The Niners control both these Super Bowls against Patrick Mahomes. He stole them from you.
I know.
He stole them from you. You controlled this football game, but the offense was lacking. The offense wasn't converting. The offense was committing false starts. The offense was committing holding calls. The offense was fumbling the football. You know what I'm saying?
But was Shanahan the reason Trent had a bad game? Trent's an old-timer. Was Shanahan the reason that Debo didn't look like himself, especially after the hamstring injury?
They weren't buttoned up, and that falls on the head coach. You're the offensive play caller. You're the offensive guy, and your offense ain't button up. That's on you, buddy.
Feliciano going down, and then Burford's got to come in.
Well, Burford's been a starter, though.
Yeah.
He's been a starter.
But that is a weakness for this team.
He's been a starter. Let's go.